Hi, today I would like to share with you some of the drawings that I've done for my 100-day project. Now, some of them we did do during our live streams, so you might already know what these are. You may already have kind of followed along while we drew these. But today I'm going to show you just those first few ones that we did as lives really quickly, and then I'll share with you the others that I've done on my own so that way we can kind of see what changes I've made to the ones that we had already done. So how about let's start here. This is the first one. We actually did this upside down because I was holding my book the other way at the time. But this is what it looks like flipped around. So this was Sunday. I didn't really change anything here other than obviously that it's turned upside down now. The orientation has changed. But yeah, the colors, this was done in watercolor and with some ink over the top. So for the second one, I think that after the live stream, the only thing that I changed was I added this kind of yellowish hue to these gears here, but I think everything else we had already done together. So again, you're welcome to check out any of those videos if you haven't seen them yet. And then the next one, also did this one on a live stream. I haven't changed anything actually. This one I just left it alone. I like the way that it was. I believe we did the line work first, so the lines, and then went over the top of it with some markers and added color that way, and then a little bit of white paint. That tends to be kind of a typical thing for me. So this one here, let's see, same thing, line work, and I'm trying to remember what I used for the color. Oh, that's right. So the color was initially set in there as I did like a watercolor just really quickly underneath. I didn't do it during the live stream, but it had been done before. So it was just a little bit of blue and green underneath and then kind of doodled over the top of that. So that turned out pretty good. And same thing, this one, did it in a live stream. I wanted to add some more things to it, but I kind of held off. I didn't really want to change it too much after this. The blues and purples here were done with a color pencil. And yeah, pretty much all the color here was done with color pencils. So I think that turned out pretty nice. I would have liked it if this kind of gold tone paint here had looked a little bit nicer, but that's how things go. It's not always the best. But next time, I did end up finding something better that gave me that gold tone that I liked. These I did not do any videos for. I just kind of did it on my own time. So the paper that this is on is a kind of a scrapbook paper. So it already had this tone. It had this kind of speckled brown tone that was just really pretty, and I didn't really want to color over that. So I decided to only draw in the corner like this. So this is kind of like a flower with some things growing out from it. And you see I did highlights here using my usual white, I think this was white ink. I've been using that for a few days now. So a little bit of white ink just to kind of bring those highlights back. You could always use a white gel pen if that works for you. I usually don't use a gel pen though. So that's how that one turned out. So I thought that was pretty good. So on the other page, same thing, that same paper. And for this one though, what I did is I drew this little design on a separate piece of paper. And then once that was done and I'd colored it, because I believe I colored this for the most part with marker. So like this purple here and this sort of pink tone, that was some kind of marker. And then I just went over that with a little bit of gray just to add some more depth. But again, this was on a separate piece of paper and then I cut it out. I fussy cutted it. I think that's what it's called, fussy cutting. I cut it out and then I glued it onto the page here. So I tend to do that sometimes when I get bored with just drawing. And so I try to mix things up that way. Okay, let's see here. 8. What I did for this one was we did this during the live where we drew all of this. So we did all the line work and all of these forms that are in the foreground. But then later, I think about a week or so later, I came back to this and I decided to add all these little dots in. And what I did use for this was a gel pen. So I think it was this one here. It was just a gold gel pen. I actually had to go rummaging around through my stuff to try to find this thing. It was lost in an old box, but I think it turned out so much better now after having added all those little gold dots. It has more dimension and it looks a little bit more interesting. So I think I like the way it looks now a whole lot more. This one, we did this whole part with the purple pods and this kind of green area during a live stream, but then I added this afterwards and you can see that I kept playing around with that gold that gold gel pen, and I just added more things to that. So if you do this too, I'm pretty sure I'm not alone. I like to come back to the drawings and kind of fix them up a little bit. So let's see here. This one we did in a live stream as well. And it still pretty much looks the same that it does as when we did the live stream. I think I just added a tiny bit more of this color right here along the edge. But everything was done there. The tone underneath I did with a kind of a stamp. I'm not sure what they're called actually. It's like a little ink pad, and then you kind of transfer ink onto the page. And then we just drew over it and then shaded in with a pencil. Unfortunately, the pencil's a little shiny, but it still looks pretty good. So we did that. I did end up getting sick after this, so a bunch of these drawings now I kind of did on my own, and I didn't have the time to do any videos for any of these. So this one at first was just this thing in the middle, and then I added some of these things to the outside of it just because I thought it looked a bit empty. But yeah, this is all just ink and with an ink wash to do some of that shading. So that was all right. I'm a little hazy on some of these just because I know it was kind of in and out, not feeling good and then feeling good, and then it just kind of... This one I felt a little better that day, so I decided to record this one. I liked this little design. I'm hoping to play again with this one. But yeah, there's a video for this if you'd like to check that out. And I'm skipping this one, unfortunately. There we go. So for the next one, let me see. No, I drew in the page. There were quite a few times where I actually glued things in, but I drew in the page here. And yeah, just kind of did some line work right here and did some similar kind of shapes over here. The colors, I believe those were also markers. The color came from markers, and over here I just kind of filled in with ink. So that was good. This is one of the ones that I did glue in. You can see that the page is really shiny. So again, this was a sheet of paper that came from a scrapbooking kind of book. And so the paper here already had a bunch of designs on it. So this was green. And inside of here, there was some kind of like a saying or something. And I didn't want to work with that. So I just cut out a circle, drew on it, and then glued it over the top of that. So that's what this is. This is my usual kind of line work. Using a blue pen this time, like a dark blue. And the color, I think in this one, the color was color pencil instead. So I decided to switch it up a little bit. So over here, I kind of was able to take a break because all of these butterflies, and you can see that they're kind of shiny, those were already there. So I just took that center part and outlined it, and I cut out a white piece of paper and glued it on here and then just drew on that. So I kind of tried to incorporate little bits of like collage into my pages just because it's fun sometimes to do something a little different. And yeah, so I just drew there. You can see around the edges it's a little gray. That's because I used a bit of an ink wash over the edges there just to kind of create a gray tone there. Okay, so here, this is one of the designs that I created. I called it a mycelium, and if you'd like to do this pattern, I do have it on my patterns playlist if you want to check that out. So let's see here. We're up to the 17th. There's a few more after this. I think we're going to go up to day 31 because it's the first month of the 100-day project. This one, I did some patterns that I'm familiar with, but I guess I was just really tired and I didn't like the way it turned out. I still don't particularly like the way it turned out, but of course certain elements I think are okay. Like these blue zones, I like the way those look. I'd like to do a page with just that, all in blue and no other colors. I think that's the part that I like about it. So yeah, even if there are drawings that don't turn out so good, I always try to get away, like take away something positive or something that I learned from it, and that's what it is for this one. I like the blue areas for this one. So let's see here for the 18th. This one I did post a video for it, and I did enjoy this one quite a bit. I believe that the foundation for it was just watercolor. So I just did a bunch of watercolor on the page, let it dry actually for a few days before I came back to it. And then over the top of this I did ink and did the line work, and then just kind of did some shading with an ink wash. And you'll notice I do an ink wash very, very often. I tend to have something here that lets me hold on to an ink wash. Let me see if I can find it. It's kind of empty right now, but I use one of these guys and I've used it all up. but I'll fill it with a few drops of ink and then the rest with water. And then that's how I kind of have it ready, and I don't have to make any more for a while. And that way I do all my shading really nicely. So let's see here. For the next one, I actually had this one done beforehand. I did them out of order for some reason. I was just kind of trying to catch up because I'd been sick for so long. But this one here is actually a drawing that I had done on a separate piece of paper, maybe like 6 months ago or something. But I had never colored it. And so I went and took a photocopy of it, cut it out, and put it in here, and then decided to play around with some colors. This is, I believe, a layering of marker first. So I used some markers just to lay down my tones. So kind of like a pink tone and a green tone. And then I went over that with a little bit of color pencil. And then I added highlights with white ink. So that's kind of what I do. I believe for this one, the highlight may not have been white ink, but I think it might have been white gouache paint. So that's another option if you want to do your highlights. Just find something white, and that usually does it. So for these here, I believe these I glued in. So this is one of my coloring pages, and you can find this on my Gumroad page. Now that is my site where I offer some of my free coloring pages and some of my journals and things like that. So you can always go there to get some of those coloring pages. And that's what this is. I just wanted to take it easy. And so I just cut it out. I glued it in and did a little bit of coloring. That's pretty much all that I did here. And speaking of which, speaking of my site, let me take a few seconds here to show you some of the books that I'm going to have available for this next restock that I'm going to do. So I'm going to have a good handful of these little ones. So these are approximately 3 inches or so, 3-inch squares. Some differ slightly. You can see this one's not a square, but it's pretty close. So here I'll show you the pages that each of them have. And so you can see the page counts do differ, but also the type of paper in them differs. And so I'm going to have quite a few of these available. And so there's that. And then I'm going to have other regular sized books like this. And for me, this is regular size. So this book is somewhere around 5 or 6 inches, almost a square, not quite. So 5.5 to 6 inches. And you can see I've actually put a lot of work into this one. I've been thinking about making a book like this. I'm actually going to have 5 of these available. And yeah, go ahead and take a look. There are going to be other books as well, but I just wanted to show you a couple of them in case you were interested in getting any of my journals. I do make quite a few of them. I wanted to have those available a couple of weeks ago, but we all know what happened. Ended up getting sick, so they're going to be available this Friday, which would be the 22nd of March, if you're interested in that. The link to my website is going to be in the description. So let's see, let's finish these up. This got just a couple more left. So for this next one, this is actually a drawing as well that I was working on kind of for a couple of weeks, on and off. And because I decided I didn't want to keep it the way it was, I decided to just go ahead and cut it up. So that's actually an option. If you have drawings that you did just on paper somewhere else in another notebook or something, you're not happy with them, cut them up, use them for something else. So I took that piece that I thought I liked the most, glued it here, did some shading just with a pencil, and that was it for the day. Sometimes that's an easier way to create than to spend a lot of time trying to make something from scratch. So you'll see here as well that this one, there we go, you can see it a little bit better. So this one in particular was, I did do the video for it, so you can actually see the footage for it if you want to check that out. It's under my videos. This one, I took this and these from that same coloring page that I mentioned earlier. They were remaining from after I cut something else out, and just kind of put them here and did some outlining, coloring, and some shading. And you can go ahead and check that out actually. But that was a pretty nice one too. Sometimes when I don't feel like actually drawing, it's really just much nicer to try to incorporate some other things like some paper cutting or gluing, some collaging, anything like that usually helps. So let's see here. This one, I use some sepia ink pens. So that's why you can tell it's not as dark as some of the other drawings that I've done before. But I absolutely love this one. I love the way everything turned out and just the way the shading isn't quite super dark. So it does have its own qualities about it, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So I really do want to try making some of these designs a couple more times and seeing where I can take it. But yeah, this was pretty much just some pens that weren't black, and I did some shading there again with the usual ink wash. So let's see here. The next one I've got here, this one, I actually did paint for this one. So I like to use these kids paints that are actually very thin. And when I use them, I just kind of put a few little dabs of paint on the page of maybe like 2 or 3 colors. And then I just tap them so that they don't blend entirely, but the paint ends up being really thin. And I'm very lucky in that I have these pens right here. And this one's actually almost empty. These pens actually draw over that paint really nicely. It is really, really easy to just draw right over that. So that's what all those lines are. It's just line work that I did using my just regular pen. And then when I was done with that part, I went over a few parts. Like you can see here in the white, I just used some white gouache. I watered it down a little bit and just added those white. Same thing over here, just added some white to try to fade in the colors. So I really liked this one. I really, really liked this one. I had a lot of fun with the colors and just super abstract shapes like that. So that inspired me to keep going with the colors using paint that way. And so what I have here is I did the same thing. I started off with paint and just kind of dabbed some, I think, green, blue, and a little bit of purple here. And it ended up being mostly green at the end of it, but that's fine. I think it looked really nice. And then I used just my regular pen, this one here. It's kind of a liquid one. And I just did all the line work with that. And when I was done here, I'll get a little bit closer. After doing all of the line work, you can see here that I added little bits of white. This time I believe that's white ink for that one, just to add those little highlights. So that's it for that one. I really liked this one too. So I was really starting to actually have fun again using colors. And for this one, it's a little hard to see here just because of the way this page accidentally got damaged. And so I had one of those moments where I just kind of went with it, and I thought I'm not going to glue anything else in, so I just kind of cut the page where it got damaged and just went with it. So here's what I drew in here. I drew this kind of swirling design right here. It's similar to the one on the previous page. I just did a little bit of line work and colored it with colored pencil. So that's what that was. Let's see here. Now the other one here on the other side is just a bit of an abstract, just kind of layered shapes. And I just was kind of thinking of really blocky shapes. And you can see here, I just kind of layered over and over and over and just left the center, just colored it black. So all of that was just ink. And the little shadows are, again, my ink wash. So I used that thing again. Let's see here. We're getting pretty close to the end. So here is the 28th. And this is one of the ones where I kind of just phoned it in, I think. And I have considered going back to this and working on it further, but I think I'm okay just leaving it be. It's just one of those where I don't think I want to do anything to try to rescue it or make it better or improve it. I think that as quirky and strange as it is, it's better to just leave it alone. And so I can't even explain what it is I did here. I just kind of did all these splotches in black and then just decided to do some contouring around it, and that was basically it. And it's okay, it can exist that way. I'm okay with it being that way. So let's see, what did I do after this one? There we go. So this is another one that I did on a separate piece of paper. And this is a nice little kind of pattern that I started using recently. And yeah, I kind of just liked it. I went with it and I kept going and going and going until it filled in. I think it looks really nice. So I really enjoyed that one. I'm going to try to see if I can use it again sometime soon. For the 30th, so I'm getting really close to the end here. Number 30, I did some 1-point perspective. This is something I hadn't done in a while, so I kind of was thinking if I could remember how it was done. And I think it turned out pretty nicely. I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to do some shading or if I'm going to do it alone, if I'm going to leave it alone. So if I do any shading, what I might end up doing is adding some texturing behind these to kind of give it more depth. So all of this kind of empty space back here, if I make it a little darker somehow, I think it'll give it more depth. And I might just leave the blocks alone and maybe only color, just gently shade one side of them or something. I'm not sure. I might just leave it alone. So there's that. 31, number 31. I spent a whole lot more time on this one. I think that finally by this point I had more energy and I felt better. So I just went ahead and actually did all the drawing that I did. I even completely forgot that I wanted to add color. So I drew and drew and drew and just kept drawing. And then I realized I was running out of space. So I just decided to start shading it in. And let me see, what did I do the shading with this time? It looks like I just used a pencil. So yeah, if you don't want to use color, it looks great too. So there was that. And then for this one here, number 32, I believe that's the last one. Yep, that's the last one. I kind of just wanted to play around with some contouring. And so these lines are just creating the effect of texture and form simply because of the way the lines are moving around. And if you see that, you can kind of see where the lines are just kind of continuous and it just moves. They aren't actually different shapes. It's just line work creating that. So for now, I've taken a break from it. There's a chance I might come back to this and just keep working on it just to see what else happens. But for now, I'm done with it. I feel like I proved the point to myself. If I do have time, I'll come back and I'll kind of add more to it. We'll see. We'll see how that works. But that is it. That is everything that I have done up to this point. So it's about a month's worth up to day 32, and I'm finally feeling better, which is so amazing. I know a lot of people have been getting sick lately, and it's pretty rough for everybody. But I did make sure that I kind of kept up with these. I think that of all of these, the ones that I enjoyed the most personally, just for myself, were these where I used paint. I'm really enjoying paint a lot more, like these two here. And as far as the design, this one I really enjoyed. I think there were a few more that I super loved, but a little bit. I think I liked this one a lot as far as the colors and just the design, just the way that it swirled along. And definitely this one was one of my favorites as well. So how about we close it up here? So this is it for this one. I know that there's still a good amount of a couple more months left to continue working on this project. So I will see you guys on, not Sunday, I have somewhere to go, but on Monday, how about I see you guys, and I will definitely give you guys all an update, and I will put it in the community posts. And before then though, on Friday, so that's tomorrow, there will be some little books available for any of you who are interested in getting any of these. If you'd like to go check those out, I'd really appreciate that. I hope that you are all having a great week. I hope that you are taking care of yourselves, spending time with your loved ones. I am going to go finish making a few more books. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.